Social anxiety, the single most commonly experienced problem today. What is it? Why is it? Social anxiety stems out of the fact that as humans, we are utterly and extremely narcissistic, meaning excessively interested in oneself. So, every single one of us is extremely self-absorbed, extremely self-obsessed. By no fault of our own, though. It's only our own lives that we have constant, uninterrupted access to, right? Everyone else is only there as long as they're in the same room as us or on the same call with us. The second they've left the room, the second you've cut the call, it's like they no longer exist. And with this very severe limitation, we're all forced to be consumed by ourselves. You are constantly thinking about yourself. And so you assume, you think that everyone else must be as well. You think that everyone is thinking about you all of the time. So of course there's infinite amounts of stress on your mind all of the time, especially when you're out in public, because you think that even when you're gone from a room, everyone who was in that room is going to be replaying your actions and your words in their mind constantly. Because again, you don't know that they have a life outside of their interactions with you. You cannot know that. It's an inherent human flaw. So you assume, at least on a subconscious level, that even when you're not around, everyone is constantly just thinking about you. You feel like you're in a play and that you're the main character of that play all of the time. So you have constant performance anxiety. You constantly feel the stress, the pressure that actors feel while on stage, but you feel it all the goddamn time. Well, what do you do about it? Let me ask you a question. If you were invisible, hypothetically, if you were invisible, do you think you would still experience social anxiety? No, right? Well, you might as well think of yourself as invisible, because everyone is stuck in that same loop as you. Everyone is constantly lost in their own thoughts, in their own world, and thinks that everyone else is as well. Not in their own, but in theirs. Meaning that everyone is constantly thinking about themselves, and so they think that everyone else is also thinking about them all of the time. So let alone remember that embarrassing incident that you had when they were around, they are too busy thinking that someone else remembers the embarrassing incident that they had when that person was around. It's a perpetual loop. By listening to this, you're already taking the first step. By listening to me say that everyone is not obsessed with you and that they're not thinking about you all of the time, or even ever for that matter, you're already starting to question this deep-rooted belief of yours. The more you think about it, the more you'll realize that what I am saying is logical, is rational, and what you have been thinking all of these years isn't. And that in of itself should start to make a difference. A lot of social anxiety, at least in my experience, came from not looking at people and then assuming that everyone around me was looking at me. And so the solution to that would be to start looking at people. I realize this feels counterintuitive. How can looking random strangers in the eye ease my social anxiety, right? But try it out. Look at them and you'll realize that most of the times they aren't even looking at you. Finally, Social anxiety stems from an overpowering inward focus, meaning that you're constantly worried about how others are perceiving you. To overcome this anxiety, do the opposite. Instead of spending all of your time worrying about how others are perceiving you, you start perceiving them. So, whenever you are out in public, look at the people around you, form opinions on them, judge them, critique them. No one will give you this advice, because in today's society, you're supposed to be goody two shoes. The world would much rather you overwhelm yourself with social anxiety rather than judge them. You could try to overcome social anxiety standing in a room of 20 people by constantly repeating to yourself, I'm not going to be anxious, I'm not going to be awkward, I'm not going to be anxious, I'm not going to be awkward. By talking to a girl you like and all the while be shouting to yourself in your head, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up. Or you could just say, let me see whom do I like in this room. While you're talking to the girl, look at her. Be curious to find out what she's like. See for yourself if she's even someone you would want to connect with. Follow these 3 steps and you should be well on your way to overcoming social anxiety. Of course, at the end of the day, like with anything else that you want to get better at, what will make the biggest difference is practice. Practice, practice, and practice. The more times you put yourself out in social situations, the more your anxiety will dissipate and the more easily you'll be able to connect with people. I wish you all the very best. Make your dreams a reality one day at a time. I will see you in the next one.